Fashion can be glamorous, it can be expressive, it can be a way to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. But on the contrary, fashion can also be an incredibly, and is, an incredibly corrupt industry, where although we can buy three pairs of pants for the price of one and throw our fist to the air, we can also buy three workers for the price of one. Today, I'm going to be talking to you again about fast fashion, and my goal for my speech today is to make you guys aware and mindful of the brands you're buying these clothing pieces from, and to know that with every garment, there is a worker behind it who is not living a life even close to ideal. So, I want you guys to be conscious of the brands you are choosing to partake and support in. So if you guys recall from my last speech, I gave you an overview of fast fashion and its negative impact on human health and the environment. So before I jump into what I'm talking about today, I'm just going to remind you all about the definition of fast fashion. I'm going to recycle the definition I used in my last speech that comes from the scholarly journal article Taylor and Francis, and they define fast fashion as, quote, low-cost clothing collections that mimic current luxury fashion trends that embodies unsustainability. So it goes on to say, trends run their course with lightning speed, with today's latest styles swiftly trumping yesterday. So in my own words, I would describe fast fashion first by looking at what it is. Brands like Forever 21, brands like Gap, like Fashion Nova, Zara, H&M, and they're pumping out these trends constantly, but they are low cost, they are low quality, and they might get themselves to your closet as soon as they get themselves to your trash bin, which is creating this really bad throwaway culture, which is affecting a lot of different aspects of our society. So today I'm going to be outlining how fast fashion leads to these unethical practices, and I'm going to focus in firstly on discussing the low pay of the workers, and I'm going to go then into discussing the inhumane conditions and treatments in these different sweatshops and factories. The first point I want to talk about is how fast fashion is unethical relating to low wages. So I'm going to go through many different brands that we're all very accustomed to, I would imagine, that are paying workers illegally low wages. The first one being the factory you see here, Fashion Nova. So they were paying their workers incredibly and illegally low wages. And this was discovered by David Weil, who in the United States Labor Department Wage and Hour Division report, he examined wage violations within Los Angeles. So this is in our own backyard. This is not a third world country. This is in Los Angeles. And he wrote into the New York Times that in 2016, Fashion Nova had dozens of factories that owed $3.8 million in back wages to hundreds of workers. $3.8 million. So I found this number just ridiculous. And what I found even more so concerning is that United States Labor Department also found that the wage was roughly anywhere from $2.77 upwards to $6 being the maximum. But the wage wasn't just a standard, it was based on how many shirts that could be sewn together. And this was in 2018, 2017, when the minimum wage was $12 in Los Angeles. And of course, now it's higher, but this is not only illegal, this is unlivable. Which brings me to my next point, because there are so many low wages, people had to work intensely long hours, and they had to work overtime because they weren't given any other choice to. They had to support themselves, and they had to support their most basic needs. And actually, at H&M, people worked overtime, and in one article I was reading from the Clean Clothes campaign described a worker in Bulgaria for H&M that claimed, quote, you enter the factory at 8 in the morning, but you never know when you'll be able to leave. Sometimes we go home at 4 a.m. This made me think, and we complain about a 9 to 5 when people are working till 4 a.m. just because they actually don't have a choice to not. They need to work in order to get a slice of food on their plate. So, another source I was looking into, the Garment Worker Center, followed the story of Mariela Martinez, and she explained that these massive multinational brands such as H&M, Zara, Gap, they're not going to increase prices just even a little bit on these items to give people that are working in the industry a higher pay. So imagine working overtime just to cover the most basic needs, but instead of seated comfortably in a little cubicle, you have an incredibly awful environment to work in. And that's what my next point is going to be in the environment they're working in and how they're treated in that environment. My next point is centered around the inhumane sweatshop conditions and how, though we are conveniently keeping clothing costs so low, they are tragically felt in these sweatshops and workshops. So I think the most telling example I can give you is the Rana Plaza factory collapse, which is shown here. And this killed more than 1,000 workers and injured more than 2,500 workers, which goes to show that not only is clothing disposable, but with fast fashion, so are the workers. So in case you're not convinced yet that these sweatshops are completely inhumane, my main example will be this one right here. And according to PBS, the top 4 floors were constructed without building permits. So the owner, Sohail Rana, was convicted of corruption charges and 3 years in prison. But the fact that it took lives of 1,000 workers to temporarily get the public's attention is just chilling to itself. And I'm going to include a video after another few points I'm going to make that show how just graphic and just disgusting it is that this was ever available and okay. But in other words, the conditions are not better. There are no lunch breaks. They are forced to bring their own toilet paper and clean water. And factory worker Yini Dewey worked hard and had no health benefits, insurance, not to mention was forced to perform very compromising tasks, not included in the job description. Actually, she even said that she would be in charge of cleaning the bathrooms and also catching and killing the rodents. She said she would even deal with rat pee falling on me and things like that. And that's from Schlossberg's journal. So, as you can see clearly, these conditions are completely not okay. And this video will go into a little bit more about showing you what actually transpired and, show the grief on these faces of these poor people. And this is produced by Ishmael Ferdowes.
Scream from the rubble, someone saying, chop off my leg and pull me out. I stopped shooting and I was trying to help.
So I know that was a lot, and today we discussed how fast fashion is beyond problematic and unethical because of the illegal wages and, of course, the sweatshop conditions, which we just saw, especially like we just viewed in that video, the poor infrastructure. That relates back to the terrible sweatshops. So I hope it has really opened your eyes to how unethical this can all be and how ugly fashion can be at times as well. And I urge you all to understand that the price of cheap clothing is never worth the price of human life. So I encourage you to buy less and wear more. In other words, just buy higher pieces of clothing items and just less on clothing that you're not going to wear for very long. So support ethical clothing brands such as Free People, Patagonia, Anthropology, LL Bean, American Apparel. There's so much more. And also you can thrift clothing. You can go through Rent the Runway, which is a service that you rent clothing. And all in all, just make sure you're buying from brands that you can trust and you can wear confidently. So if you're also wanting to make more changes, you can also sign up for the petition, and I'll have it linked below. And you can make a difference today if you agree to all these types of different little changes and know that we can all make a small difference one way or another and put an end to this awful industry.